I wasn't meant to hear it. My name is Cassidy. Dad forgot to hang up, and suddenly his voice crackled through the speaker in my room, cold, excited, relentless. After the retreat, she'll have an accident. The center will be ours by next quarter. Mom's laugh followed sharp as broken glass. No one will question it. She's old. She's isolated. My pulse hammered against my ribs. They were talking about someone close, someone who owned everything we lived in. I killed the speaker, hands trembling, and dialed the one number I knew would listen. "Grandma, it's me," I whispered. "They're planning something terrible at the retreat." Silence stretched, then her voice came low and steady. "Don't say another word on this line. I'll arrive in 3 days and I won't be alone. If one overheard sentence ever flipped your family upside down, drop it in the comments." I read every single one. The next morning, the mansion buzzed with preparations. Dad paced the sun-drenched courtyard, phone glued to his ear, barking orders about the meditation schedule. "Make sure the canyon view mats are front and center. Guests pay for that serenity." His voice carried through the open doors, sharp and commanding as always. Mom hovered near the entrance, directing a team unloading crates of red stone lanterns. Higher on the left, balance the energy flow, she instructed, her smile polished for anyone watching. I lingered in the hallway, pretending to scroll through my phone while observing them. The retreat kicked off in 3 days, and every detail had to scream luxury. Dad managed the operational side of Grandma's empire, handling bookings and staff for all 12 centers nationwide. Mom organized the events, turning weekends into sold-out escapes for stressed executives. From the outside, we looked like the perfect extension of the brand, polished, devoted, unbreakable. But after last night, nothing felt solid anymore. I slipped into the kitchen for coffee, keeping my steps light. Dad ended his call and joined Mom outside, their heads close together. I couldn't hear the words, but his nod was quick, satisfied. Whatever they discussed wrapped up fast. Mom glanced around, then pulled out her tablet to confirm something. The workers kept unloading, oblivious. I needed space to think. Upstairs in my room, I closed the door and stared at the red rock vistas beyond the window. The retreat meant everything to the business: 50 high-profile guests, media coverage, a waitlist months long. If something disrupted it, the fallout could sink us. But disrupting Grandma, that didn't add up. She built this from nothing, turning desert lots into wellness havens. Dad handled one branch, sure, but the core belonged to her. My phone buzzed with a reminder: "Help Mom with guest welcome packets." I ignored it and opened Dad's shared calendar instead. Nothing unusual, just session times and meal plans. Frustrated, I headed downstairs to the office wing. The door to Mom's private desk stood ajar. She rarely left it unlocked during prep chaos. I pushed inside, heart picking up speed. The room smelled of her lavender diffuser papers stacked neatly beside a vase of fresh succulents. I scanned the surface: invitations, vendor contracts, a printed itinerary. Nothing jumped out. Then my eyes landed on the bottom compartment, the one she always secured with a key on her chain. It hung open, just a crack, the chain dangling loose from her earlier rush. I knelt and eased it further. Files filled the space labeled by year. My fingers brushed past recent retreats until I hit an older folder marked insurance. Closed. Inside lay a thick policy document dated 2015. The beneficiary stared back at me: Judith. Payout amount $45 million. Cause of claim: vehicular accident. Status: paid in full. Judith. The name struck hard. Dad's aunt, Grandma's younger sister, gone 8 years ago in a crash up near Flagstaff. We attended the funeral, closed casket, Mom crying harder than anyone. Grandma shut down for months after. The money rebuilt 2 centers or so, the story went. But why keep the paperwork here buried in a drawer? I flipped deeper. A yellow sticky note clung to the back page, handwritten in Mom's looping script: Flagstaff address, do not contact. Below it, a street name and number I didn't recognize. No phone, no email, just the warning. My stomach twisted. Why hide an address for someone long dead, and why the emphasis on no contact? Footsteps echoed in the hall. I shoved the file back closed to the drawer and stepped behind the door just as Mom entered. She didn't notice me at first, humming while rifling through a shelf. I held my breath. She grabbed a folder, locked the drawer properly this time, and left. The click of the key turning felt final. Back in my room, I typed the address into my Maps app. 2 hours North Flagstaff, right where the accident happened. The route traced winding roads through canyons, the same paths Judith supposedly lost control on. Coincidence? Doubtful. Dad's message from earlier replayed in my mind. Plans for M confirmed, no traces. M for Marilyn. Or something else, I paced, weighing options. Confronting them now would tip my hand. They'd deny everything, lock away whatever else existed. But ignoring this felt impossible. The retreat loomed, guests arriving soon. If Dad's plans involved grandma, time wasn't on my side. By afternoon, the courtyard transformed. Lanterns glowed softly against the stone yoga mats aligned in perfect rows. Dad tested the sound system, his voice booming instructions. Mom arranged crystal bowls for the opening ceremony. I helped carry boxes, smiling when needed, but my thoughts stayed on that sticky note. Dinner passed in a blur of small talk about guest arrivals and weather forecasts. Dad raised a glass to the upcoming success. This retreat will set records, he declared. Mom clinked her water glass against his, eyes sparkling. I excused myself early, claiming a headache. Alone again, I stared at the Flagstaff pin on my phone screen. Driving there tonight meant risking everything, missing prep tomorrow, questions from them. But the address burned in my mind. If Judith's file hid secrets, what else did Grandma's warning echoed arrive in 3 days, not alone? Whatever she brought, I needed more before then. I grabbed my keys, then set them down. Not yet. Rushing blind could ruin any chance of proof. Instead, I opened my laptop and searched public records for the address. Property records showed a small cabin owned by a trust under Marilyn's name. No recent activity. Dead end. Frustration built. I needed inside that drawer again, or better access to Dad's phone, but both stayed close to them now. The retreat schedule demanded constant oversight. Tomorrow brought vendor deliveries at dawn. Opportunities might shrink. I lay awake listening to the house settle. Workers' voices faded outside. Dad's office light flicked off last. The mansion felt alive with secrets, walls holding whispers I couldn't quite catch. That sticky note wasn't random. The insurance payout funded expansions, everyone knew the story. But keeping an address marked "Do Not Contact" for a dead woman that screamed cover-up. Sleep evaded me. By midnight, I crept downstairs. The office door locked this time. I tried the handle anyway, solid. No way in without noise. Defeated, I returned upstairs. The next day blurred into motion. I folded welcome cards, arranged name tags, anything to stay near them without suspicion. Dad reviewed final contracts. Mom finalized the menu. Between tasks, I watched for openings. None came. Evening brought a brief lull. Guests arrived the day after tomorrow. Dad stepped out to meet a late supplier. Mom retreated to her room for a call. I seized the moment, slipping into the office. The drawer key still hung from her chain upstairs, but the file folder sat on the desk, now out for reference. I opened it carefully. The sticky note remained, but a new paper clipped behind a printed email draft unsent. Transfer complete upon confirmation. M handled discreetly. No recipient listed. My hands trembled as I snapped photos with my phone every page. Footsteps approached. I closed the folder, slid it back, and ducked into the adjoining bathroom. Mom entered, grabbed the folder, and left. Close call. Back safe. I studied the images. The email draft matched Dad's cryptic message style. M had to connect. Marilyn Orr, the initial on that insurance policy. Judith's middle name started with M. Margaret. Judith Margaret. The pieces clicked unevenly. I couldn't wait longer. The address in Flagstaff held answers. Driving there meant leaving before dawn, returning by nightfall. Risky, but necessary. Grandma arrived soon. Whatever she planned, I needed leverage. I packed a small bag, water charger, the photos. The decision settled, heavy but firm. Tomorrow, while they focused on final setups, I'd follow the trail north. No traces, just like Dad wanted. But this time, for the truth. By evening, I couldn't shake the note. The mansion lights dimmed as workers packed up tools, leaving the courtyard quiet under a thin moon. Dad reviewed the final checklists and his office door closed. Mom retired early, citing exhaustion from vendor calls. I waited until the house fell silent, then grabbed my keys and slipped out the side entrance. The drive north began on empty highways, red rocks fading into pine shadows. Headlights cut through the darkness, the road twisting upward. 2 hours felt endless, every mile pulling me deeper into uncertainty. The cabin address glowed on my GPS, a lone pin on the forested outskirts. I parked on a gravel, shoulder engine off, and stared at the small wooden structure ahead. One light burned inside, curtains drawn tight. I approached on foot, gravel crunching under my sneakers. The door opened before my knock landed. Grandma stood there, silver hair loose, eyes sharp. She grabbed my wrist and yanked me in. "You shouldn't have come alone," she hissed, locking the bolt behind us. The room smelled of pine and coffee. A single lamp cast long shadows over worn furniture. Grandma released me and scanned the windows. "They watch everything now." Her voice stayed low, urgent. I opened my mouth to explain, but movement from the hallway stopped me. Judith emerged, thinner than memory, her face pale beneath a knit cap. She trembled, clutching a shawl. "They think I'm dead," she whispered, voice cracking. Her eyes darted to the door, then back to me. Grandma guided us to a threadbare couch. Judith sat, knees drawn up. It started after the expansion plans. She began, fingers twisting the fabric. "Your dad needed cash fast." The centers struggled. "He proposed faking my crash insurance would cover the debts." I leaned forward, breath shallow. She continued without pause. "We staged it on that canyon curve. Empty car rolled off the edge. Fire department report listed me inside. Closed casket sealed the lie." Her laugh was bitter, hollow. Grandma paced nearby, arms crossed. "The payout was split 3 ways at first. Me, your parents, a silent partner. But greed grew." Judith nodded. "They cut me out after the funeral. Threatened exposure if I surfaced. I've hidden here since off-grid." Questions flooded my mind. Judith anticipated some. "Bank transfers went through offshore accounts. Your mom handled paperwork. Dad managed the scene." She reached for a water glass, hands unsteady. "I kept records, proof they can't erase." Grandma stopped pacing and retrieved a thick envelope from a drawer. She slid it across the table. "This is what they're using now, but we need more." The packet felt heavy, sealed with tape. Inside lay printed emails, bank statements, and a burner phone. I flipped through the pages. One statement showed recent wires labeled consulting fees. Another email chain discussed finalizing M without details. The burner phone powered on, slowly, screen cracked. Grandma took it, navigated to a saved audio file, and pressed play. A muffled voice crackled, Dad's, distorted but recognizable. "Ensure the route matches last time. No witnesses." Static swallowed the rest, then a second speaker. "Payment upon completion." The clip ended abruptly. Judith wrapped her arms around herself. "That's from last month. They're planning again." Grandma reclaimed the phone. "We have fragments. Enough to suspect, not convict." Her gaze locked on mine. "Your arrival changes things." I set the envelope down, mind racing. The fake crash explained the expansions, the sudden wealth. But targeting Grandma now? The centers thrived. Or did they? Dad's late nights, Mom's stress signs I ignored. Grandma poured tea from a thermos, steam rising. "Drink. You drove far." The warmth steadied me. Judith watched the windows. "They check this place sometimes. Drones, maybe cars." Paranoia laced her words, but evidence backed it. I examined the statements closer. One transfer originated from a center account my name listed as an authorized signer for emergencies. They used my access. Anger flared hot and sudden. Grandma noticed. We confront carefully. The retreat gives cover. Judith agreed. Guests distract them. We arrive separately. Her plan unfolded Grandma first, then her, via a side path. The burner buzzed with a low battery warning. Grandma silenced it. More files exist digital backups, but retrieving them risks alerting them. She outlined options: hack Dad's cloud, or wait for on-site access during chaos. Judith added details on the original scam. Police report forged with a contact. Insurance investigator bought off. Each revelation layered the betrayal deeper. Family wasn't just business, it became survival. Hours slipped by in whispers. Grandma sketched retreat layouts on scrap paper marking entry points. Judith memorized routes. I absorbed strategies, committing details to memory. Outside, wind-rattled pines. Grandma checked her watch. Return before dawn. Act normal. She handed me the envelope. Hide this well. Judith embraced me briefly, fragile but fierce. Thank you for believing. The drive back blurred with exhaustion. Headlights guided me south, mind replaying fragments. The audio loop echoed Dad's voice, cold and calculated. Evidence weighed in my bag, real and damning. Dawn crept over Sedona as I parked quietly. The mansion slept, no signs of disturbance. I stashed the packet under floorboards in my closet, then collapsed into bed. Sleep came fitful, filled with canyon curves and empty caskets. Morning light filtered through curtains. Preparations resumed, outside voices clatters. I joined mechanically, folding linens, arranging cushions. Dad greeted me with a nod. Good rest. His question hung innocent. Mom smiled over coffee. Big day tomorrow. I mirrored their ease, hiding turmoil. The envelope stayed secure, its contents burning in my thoughts. Grandma's arrival loomed. Judith's return would shatter everything. But first, the retreat demanded perfection. The retreat opened at dawn with soft bells chiming across the courtyard. 50 guests settled onto crimson mats arranged in precise circles on the sun-warmed stone. Instructors in flowing linens guided breathing exercises, voices blending with distant bird calls. Mom stood at the center, microphone in hand, her tone warm and inviting. Inhale the desert energy, exhale yesterday's weight. Dad circled the perimeter, stopwatch in hand, ensuring transitions were seamless. He adjusted a speaker, then signaled a staff member to dim overhead lanterns. Guests followed instructions without question, eyes closed, postures aligned. The scene projected pure tranquility, the kind that justified premium fees. I moved among them, offering water bottles and rolled towels. Smiles greeted me, compliments on the setup flowing freely. One executive whispered thanks for the personalized welcome note. Another praised the rock formations framing the space. Everything ran like clockwork, the empire's reputation intact. Mid-morning sun climbed higher, casting sharp shadows. Mom transitioned to gentle stretches, demonstrating arm circles with effortless grace. Feel the release in your shoulders, she encouraged. Dad checked his watch again, brow creasing slightly. A delivery truck arrived earlier than scheduled. He hurried to intercept it. Guests paired for partner poses, laughter light as they balanced. I refilled pitchers, staying visible, but detached. The envelope from Grandma remained hidden upstairs, its weight a constant reminder. Her arrival timing was still uncertain, but the day progressed without disruption. A black sedan pulled up to the gate, tires crunching gravel. Security waved it through after a brief exchange. The driver emerged first, opening the rear door. Grandma stepped out, travel bag slung over one shoulder, sunglasses shielding her expression. She scanned the courtyard before striding forward. Heads turned subtly. A few guests recognized her from brochures, the founder herself. Whispers rippled through the crowd. Mom paused mid-instruction, her smile freezing. Mother, you're early, she called, voice pitched slightly higher than usual. Grandma ignored the greeting and headed straight for me, enveloping me in a firm hug, lips near my ear. "Where's your father?" The question carried urgency beneath the affection. I pulled back slightly, handling a delivery out back. Dad appeared moments later, wiping hands on a cloth. Color drained from his face upon seeing her, but he recovered with a broad grin. "What a surprise. We weren't expecting you until tomorrow." He extended his arms for an embrace she sidestepped gracefully. Guests resumed poses under Mom's redirected guidance, curiosity lingering. Grandma released me and surveyed the group. Impressive turnout. The brand endures. Her compliment landed, flat eyes narrowing on Dad. He gestured toward the main building. "Let's get you settled." Mom joined them, linking an arm through Grandma's. "Your suite overlooks the best vista. Fresh linens, essential oils." The trio moved inside, conversation muffled. I followed at a distance, tasked with carrying the bag. Staff bustled around, unaware of the tension. In the lobby, crystal bowls waited for the next session. Dad steered them toward a private lounge. "We can catch up properly here." Grandma resisted. "No need for seclusion. The guests deserve your attention." Her refusal hung pointed. Mom laughed lightly, though strain showed. "Of course. Cassidy, show Grandma the garden path." I nodded, leading the way outdoors. Dad trailed, checking his watch once more. The path wound between sculpted cacti, away from the main activity. Grandma slowed her pace. "Everything appears thriving." Dad agreed too quickly. "Bookings sold out months ahead." She nodded, then glanced back toward the gate. A faint silhouette lingered behind tinted glass in the sedan, unmoving, watchful. I caught the glimpse, too. Mom noticed my stare. "Driver waiting for instructions," she explained smoothly. Grandma's expression remained neutral. Efficient service. The group reached a shaded bench. Dad suggested sitting. "Rest after your trip." She declined. "I prefer standing. Energy flows better." Guests filtered past for the next break, waving politely. One asked for a photo with the founder. Grandma obliged, smile polished. Dad hovered, guiding her away afterward. Lunch preparations were underway in the dining pavilion, organic spreads, infused waters. Mom excused herself to oversee plating. Plates must align perfectly. Dad lingered with Grandma near the entrance. Any special requests? His offer sounded routine. "None," she replied. The sedan door opened briefly outside, then closed. The figure stayed obscured. Dad's phone buzzed. He stepped aside to answer. Grandma watched him intently. I distributed menus, keeping close. Guests praised the ambiance, snapping pictures. The retreat hummed with positive energy, reviews already glowing on apps. Dad returned, pocketing the device. All set for afternoon sessions. Grandma nodded toward the vehicle. "Your companion joins us." Dad hesitated. "Just the driver. Resting." Her eyes lingered on the glass. The silhouette shifted slightly, features still hidden. Mom reappeared, apron removed. "Tables ready." "Shall we?" The four walked together, Grandma between my parents. Guests filled seats, chatter rising. Dad pulled her chair. She sat gracefully, surveying the spread. Conversation stayed surface: weather, guest demographics, upcoming expansions. Mom steered topics expertly. New center in Scottsdale breaks ground soon. Grandma listened, fork poised. Ambitious. Dad poured water. Your vision executed. Compliments flowed, but undercurrents pulled. I served, nearby ears tuned. The sedan remained parked, engine off. Occasional movement inside suggested someone waiting. Afternoon yoga commenced on the lawn. Instructors demonstrated flows. Guests mirrored, focused. Grandma observed from a lounge chair, shaded. Dad conferred with staff about sound levels. Mom circulated, adjusting props. A breeze stirred, carrying incense. Participants deepened stretches. I handed out cold towels. Grandma beckoned me over. "Keep watch." She murmured, her gaze fixed on the gate area. Dad approached, offering a smoothie. Hydration is key in this heat. She accepted, sipping slowly. Mom joined, praising participant engagement. Record satisfaction scores. Pride was evident, but eyes flicked nervously. The silhouette in the car leaned forward, then settled back. Sun glinted off the windows, concealing details. Grandma set her drink down. Impressive operation. Dad beamed. Team effort. Sessions continued seamlessly. Guests rotated through workshops, sound healing, guided visualization. Mom led a breathing circle, voice soothing. Dad monitored timers, transitions crisp. Grandma rose, occasionally strolling the edges. Her presence elevated the event, guests seeking advice. She dispensed wisdom briefly, always returning to observation. The vehicle stayed stationary, driver patient. Evening approached, golden light, bathing stones. Final activities wrapped. Guests applauded instructors. Mom announced dinner seating. Dad coordinated cleanup crews. Grandma stood near the path. Productive day. Her tone approved, but eyes searched. The sedan door cracked open again, a hand visible, then shut. Suspense built silently. I cleared mats, stacking them neatly. Parents conferred, nearby voices low. Grandma approached me. Ready for tomorrow? The question layered. I nodded. The dinner bell rang. Guests headed inside. The four lingered outside briefly. Dad locked the gate remotely. Mom smoothed her outfit. Grandma glanced once more at the car, shadow unmistakable behind glass. The final group meditation began at sunset. Participants formed a wide circle on the cooled stone cushions arranged evenly. Instructors dimmed lights, leaving only flickering torch flames. Mom sat cross-legged at the front, eyes closed, guiding rhythmic chants. Breathe in peace, release attachment. Dad positioned himself opposite, notebook on his lap, monitoring engagement. Guests mirrored his posture, hands resting, palms up. The air carried sage smoke, voices blending in low hums. Grandma took a spot near the edge, serene yet alert. I knelt behind a low-wall phone, ready in my pocket. The envelope remained upstairs, but digital copies were transferred. Tension built as chants deepened. Mom's guidance continued without pause. Visualize roots grounding into the earth. Dad shifted slightly, glancing at his device. A message flashed, he silenced it quickly. Guests stayed, immersed, unaware. Grandma's eyes opened briefly, meeting mine across the circle. A subtle nod signaled me to proceed. I connected a small speaker to my phone, starting at low volume. The hum masked initial static. Then Dad's voice emerged, slightly distorted yet audible. Make sure the car loses control on the canyon road after the retreat. Gasps rippled outward. He bolted upright. That's edited. His shout shattered the calm. Participants stirred, confusion spreading. Mom's eyes snapped open, face paling. Turn it off, she demanded sharply. The recording continued despite his protest. A second speaker responded. Confirmation received. Discreet execution. Static cut it short. I stopped playback, standing slowly. Silence blanketed the circle. Judith entered from the rear door, silhouetted against fading light. She trembled but stepped forward. I was supposed to be in that car 8 years ago. Her words carried steadily across the stone. Mom dropped the meditation bell, metal clanging loudly near Dad's feet. Guests murmured, some reaching for phones. He lunged toward me. Give that here. I stepped back, holding firm. Grandma rose smoothly. Enough games. Her authority froze him mid-stride. Judith moved to the circle's edge. The crash never happened. Empty vehicle, staged scene. Dad's hands clenched. Lies. She's delusional. Mom knelt to retrieve the bell, fingers shaking. This disrupts everything, she muttered. Participants edged back, forming a loose barrier. I addressed the circle. I recorded everything since that night. My voice steadied with resolve. Phones captured the scene, flashes sporadic. Dad scanned faces, realizing exposure. Judith explained further. Insurance claimed my life. Funds rebuilt centers. Grandma added weight. Plans evolved. New targets emerged. Her gaze fixed firmly on my parents. Mom stood composure cracking. We built this together. Dad echoed jealousy fuels accusations. Guests whispered alliances shifting. One executive demanded explanations. Agent Owens appeared at the entrance, badge visible. FBI, everyone stay seated. His command froze movement. Two colleagues flanked him, notebooks ready. Participants complied, shock evident. Dad backed toward an exit. Misunderstanding, private matter. Owens raised a hand. Step forward, sir. Authority unmistakable. Mom clutched her arms, eyes pleading with me. I held position. Evidence submitted earlier. Owens nodded. Digital file statement sufficient for review. He gestured to staff. Clear, non-involved guests to quarters. Instructors guided participants away, murmurs trailing. The circle emptied gradually. Dad protested loudly. Fabricated audio, deepfake technology. Owens remained unmoved. Forensics will verify. Judith confronted directly. Your signature on the claim form. She produced a document from her pocket, a copy of the original policy. Mom gasped. Where obtained? Grandma explained calmly. Preserved records? Hidden duplicates? Dad lunged for the paper. An agent intercepted, cuffing wrists loosely. Resisting complicates matters. Mom collapsed onto a cushion, tears starting. Family first, she whispered. I turned away. Actions spoke louder. Owens directed questions. Accounts accessed recently, Dad refused to answer. Mom shook her head. Lawyer present, Owens acknowledged. Rights advised. Colleagues began collecting devices from the scene. Guests peeked from windows, filming discreetly. The retreat's serenity shattered irreparably. Grandma comforted Judith, arm around shoulders. Truth surfaces eventually. I approached Owens quietly. Additional drives upstairs. He assigned an agent. Secured chain of custody. Evidence bags appeared labeled efficiently. Dad glared across the space. Betrayal runs deep. His accusation landed hollow. Mom sobbed softly. Ruined for nothing. Participants evacuated fully, doors closing. Owens addressed remaining family. Interviews commenced separately. Agents separated us, Grandma with Judith in one room, parents in another. I followed a third agent to a quiet office. Questions began methodically. Timeline of discoveries I recounted without hesitation, details flowing. The agent noted timestamps, cross-referencing submissions. Outside vehicle engines hummed, backup arriving. Floodlights illuminated the courtyard. Staff huddled in groups, uncertain. The Empire's facade cracked wide open. Grandma's voice carried from an adjacent space firm in responses. Judith added clarifications. Parents' denials grew frantic, muffled through walls. Owens returned. Preliminary matches confirmed. Audio authenticity verified. Bank trails aligned. The case built swiftly. I exhaled, tension easing slightly. Confrontation ended, consequences beginning. Agents sealed rooms, preserving scenes. The meditation circle stood empty, bell forgotten on stone. The red rocks outside darkened as agents moved in. Flashlights swept the courtyard, sealing all exits. One team confiscated phones from Dad's pockets, another collected laptops from the office. Grandma handed over the envelope without resistance. Everything's here, she said calmly. Dad bolted toward the rear gate, shoes scraping stone. Two agents intercepted him, blocking the path. Stay put, one ordered, hand hovering over the holster. He froze, breathing heavily. Mom sank to her knees nearby, tears streaming. It was only talk, she pleaded, reaching toward me. I shook my head, stepping back. Actions proved otherwise. Her sobs echoed against the walls. Agents guided her to a bench, cuffs loosely securing her. Dad glared, wrists restrained behind him. This violates my rights, he protested. Owens directed the operation. Bag all electronics. Technicians labeled devices, powering down systems. Staff peered from windows, faces pale. The retreat's luxury dissolved into chaos. Grandma stood firm. Cooperation speeds the process. Judith remained beside her, silent but composed. Agents questioned guests, briefly releasing most after statements. Media vans gathered beyond the fence, cameras flashing. Dad demanded a call. Attorney, immediately. Owens allowed supervised contact. Mom whispered apologies to no one. I watched from the side, numb. Vehicles filled the drive, evidence crates loaded. Forensic vans arrived for digital imaging. The mansion's servers hummed under scrutiny. Agents traced access logs, flagging anomalies. 6 months of investigation unfolded methodically. Prosecutors built the case on layered evidence. Secret transfers surfaced, funds routed through shell companies to offshore accounts. Fake accident contracts emerged, signed by Dad. Federal insurance fraud charges centered on the original claim. Conspiracy to cause injury targeted the new plan. Wiretaps corroborated the audio's authenticity. Witnesses from previous centers testified to irregularities. Mom's emails detailed staging logistics. Dad's calls confirmed hires. The payout trail traced back to expansions misreported as loans. Auditors uncovered $20 million in discrepancies. Pre-trial hearings dragged on in the Phoenix courthouse. Dad entered pleas of not guilty. Bail was denied due to flight risk. Mom followed, her voice breaking. Grandma provided affidavits, Judith's survival pivotal. I prepared testimony, reviewing documents nightly. The envelope's contents expanded, additional statements, hidden ledgers. Prosecutors coached me on delivery, emphasizing facts over emotion. The trial commenced under tight security. Jury selection focused on impartiality. Opening statements outlined greed's evolution. The defense claimed exaggeration, a family dispute. The prosecution presented timelines. The staged crash was replayed via reports. The insurance adjuster admitted oversight for payout. Bank experts mapped financial flows, visuals projecting millions diverted. Dad took the stand, composure cracking. Business pressures, he explained. Cross-examination dismantled alibis. Mom testified next, deflecting blame. He handled the details. My turn arrived midweek. I detailed discoveries, the drawer, the drive, the recordings. The jury listened intently. The defense probed motives. Resentment toward parents, I denied. Truth over loyalty. Judith recounted her hiding, fear constant. Grandma corroborated threats. Closing arguments summarized the cost of betrayal. The jury deliberated 2 days. Verdicts returned guilty on all counts. Federal insurance fraud carried mandatory minimums. Conspiracy charges added enhancements. Sentencing followed weeks later. The judge reviewed the impacts. Victims extend beyond finances, trust shattered. Dad received 8 years. Mom matched. Restitution was ordered at $20 million, assets liquidated. Appeals were filed immediately, but bonds held. Transfer to federal facilities proceeded. I attended the final hearing, finality settling in. The centers entered receivership, operations paused. Staff dispersed, reputations tarnished. Media coverage peaked, then faded. Legal fees mounted, the defense exhausted resources. Grandma managed interim oversight, stabilizing what remained. Judith consulted remotely, her expertise valued. I declined involvement, focusing on closure. Prison correspondence began, letters from Dad seeking reconciliation. I returned them unopened. Mom's notes pleaded forgiveness. Silence answered. Asset sales partially covered judgments. The mansion was listed first, bids low amid scandal. Proceeds were directed to victims' funds. The empire's core dissolved. Lessons were harsh. Court mandates included no contact orders. Violations risked sentence extensions. Compliance ensured distance. Life was reshaped, free from their shadow. 1 year later, the mansion stood empty. I lingered alone on the terrace, watching crimson streaks bleed across the horizon. Echoes of past gatherings faded with the wind. The property sold quietly, $12 million directed straight to a foundation supporting victims of insurance scams. The new owners renovated, swiftly erasing traces of our history. Walls were repainted, gardens replanted. The courtyard that had seen chaos now hosted parties for the newcomers. I visited once, keys in hand, to collect forgotten belongings. Boxes held photographs, awards, remnants of a carefully constructed facade. Mail arrived regularly at my apartment. One envelope bore a prison stamp. Dad's handwriting requested a visit, claiming reflection. I tore it without reading, fragments scattering into the trash. Closure demanded finality. Months earlier, Grandma had relocated to Oregon. She chose a modest home near the coast, surrounded by evergreens. Judith joined her, thriving in the open air. Postcards arrived frequently, images of blooming gardens, handwritten notes, celebrating simple joys. I pinned the latest to my board: vegetables, harvested, laughter shared. Their life had been rebuilt on honesty, free from shadows. Visits were planned for spring. The northern roads were now familiar. The foundation expanded under an independent board. Funds supported legal aid and awareness campaigns. Survivors shared stories to prevent repeats. My role remained advisory, distance preserved peace. Dad's appeals drained what remained of his assets. Legal battles continued remotely. I declined updates, focusing forward. Mom's correspondence ceased after her initial pleas. Silence suited best. Trips to Oregon offered respite. Grandma taught composting, Judith shared recipes. Evenings were filled with board games and light-hearted stories. Bonds strengthened naturally without obligation. The terrace view shifted with the seasons. Monsoons washed the stone clean, the sun baked away memories. I sold personal items online, proceeds added to donations. Material ties were severed gradually. A final walkthrough revealed bare rooms. Echoes of footsteps were mine alone. The sale closed, escrow funds transferred. Victims received checks, gratitude expressed in letters. I drove away without looking back. The road wound through canyons, past sites of old deceptions. Freedom tasted in the open windows, music low and steady. Grandma called weekly. The garden expands, she reported. Judith added details on new plants. Their voices grounded me, reminders of a chosen family. The foundation hosted events, workshops on vigilance. I spoke occasionally, sharing warnings without bitterness. Audiences nodded thoughtfully, questions considered. Dad's name appeared in the news, rarely denials persistent. I skipped articles, redirecting energy forward. Healing required boundaries, not obsession. Oregon welcomed with rain-scented air. Grandma met me at the door, embrace warm. Judith prepared tea. Steam rising. We walked paths lined with herbs, conversation effortless. Nights under the stars clarified priorities. Wealth meant little without integrity. The empire's fall exposed illusions. Rebuilding began small, authentic. One evening, I whispered to the Wind family, "Isn't who shares your blood, it's who earns your trust." The words settled truth, undeniable. I stepped forward, path clear, unburdened.